My name is Morgan, and welcome back to Beaker Barnes. Beaker Barnes is, of course, your one-stop shop for everything comics, books, movies, etc. Basically, if you like the things that I like, you're gonna want to stick around here. Today, we're doing it, folks. We're talking Star Wars. Today we're talking The High Republic, specifically Out of the Shadows by Justina Ireland. Fanboys, I hear ya, I can see you typing, you're all about to lose your mind. It's a book, it's written by a woman of color, it stars a queer person of color. Well, fanboys, this video ain't for you.
Log off the log. Don't log off, delete the account.
Okay, now that they're gone, let's proceed. But first, make sure you subscribe. I make new videos whenever I want, but hopefully they're going to be more consistent. I say that every video, and it hasn't happened yet, but it's going to this time. I swear. Probably won't though. But it's gonna happen this time. Also, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm at Beaker Barnes, anywhere and everywhere. And so now that that's out of the way, Out of the Shadows. Out of the Shadows is the 5th main series book in Star Wars The High Republic line, and it directly follows the events of the Rising Storm. Did I know that this book was a standalone when I picked it up? No, I did not, but that's okay, because it actually functions really well as a standalone or as a really great jumping off point. If you haven't read any other High Republic books, it still works. Plot. The general plot of the High Republic series is that these are stories from a time when the Jedi Order is at their peak. So this is way before Sheev Palpatine's fuckery. It's about 200 years before, and it's in a time where we get to truly see what the Jedi Order was supposed to represent. The only character that we see from previous canon is Yoda, who is still on the Jedi Council and still very old and still very annoying. And also Yaddle. This book has a Yaddle cameo, so like Yaddle stands, go wild. So, like I said, Out of the Shadows directly follows The Rising Storm, and it follows a whole cast of characters, but the point of view is mainly split up into 4. Vernestra Rowh, who's a newly minted Jedi Knight, Sylvesti'S, a Padawan learner, Sylvesti'S, a pilot and a junker, making her way around the Outer Rim. She's the queer woman of color. And Nan, a low-level Nil worker bee. After the Nil attack Syl's ship and lead to the death of her mother, she's barely keeping it together, and she's forced to head to Coruscant to try to make some cash. When she arrives, she's coerced into a strange plot by a man named Zylan Gaff, who wants to use Syl as a pawn in his rich people shenanigans. Meanwhile, Vernestra Rowh is also not doing so hot. After an attack by the Nil on a bunch of Jedi, Vernestra and her Padawan Emiri, Jedi Master Cormac Vitus, and Sylvesti'S are all summoned back to Coruscant for some unknown reason, and the conflict ensues. So, to start things off, I loved every aspect of this book. I love an exploration of Star Wars in a time without a great struggle, and specifically a time without the Sith, because this book can bring up what is the role of the Jedi to regular citizens, and the moral conflict that the Jedi face when they're so removed from the real world. Justina Ireland does a really great job making these struggles all character motivated, especially because the character that we spend the most time with is Syl. Star Wars is at its best when it's focused on an outsider, in my opinions. That's why The Mandalorian is so popular. That's why Rey and Luke's stories begin with them as outsiders. So not only are these characters great for audience POVs, but they're also a great way for us to understand morality and thematics of the stories. I was super invested in Sylvesti'S moral conflict, both with her mother and then with the Jedi once she's forced to work with them. She's really frustrated that they weren't there to stop her mother from dying, and that they experience what to her is this very lavish life on Coruscant. The idea that the Jedi are somehow an upper class because they are removed from everyone is something that gets brought up a lot in a lot of Star Wars books. It's something that Qui-Gon Jinn specifically deals with when he's training Obi-Wan. So I love to see that this is an issue that the Jedi have experienced for generations, and it's not something that's specific to specific branches of the Jedi. It's a problem with the institution. When Jedi are raised in a temple setting, it's much harder for them to be a servant to the rest of the galaxy, and so Syl really embodies that struggle, and I love that. She's also very gay. We have gay people in Star Wars. We have gay people of color in Star Wars. Incredible. I won't say much more on the gay content in this book because it's I don't want to get into a spoiler territory, but it's here. Gay people are here, and they're in your Star Wars. So, speaking of gay people, the next central character that I want to talk about is Vernestra. I love this silly little Jedi Knight. I love her so much. She's 17 years old, and apparently she passed her trials when she was 15, and she now has a Padawan, and like that's sick as hell. But then part of her conflict comes from the fact that she's like, I don't know if I'm ready to be a Jedi Knight, because internally I'm like, yeah, I can be a Jedi Knight. I have all of the qualifications to do this. But then once she's faced with her Padawan, she's faced with the struggles, she still finds herself going to her old master and going to try to find resources in other places, and she thinks that makes her less of a Jedi, which it doesn't. It just means she has a good support system. But I love that, like, that's her conflict. And I love that she's like dealing with all of these like struggles of what it means to be a Jedi, and especially what it means to be like a young person as well. And that's super, super interesting. And she's such a wonderful character to contrast with Syl, because while Vernestra knows like her place in the world and she knows where she feels about like the Jedi Order, she's really like still unsure about who she is personally and about what her like purpose in the Force is, and about who her relationships are with other people and with Wraith and with Amiri. Like, she doesn't really know that. But Syl is like still coming into her own in terms of her place in the galaxy, but she knows exactly who she is. She knows like what she wants, and she knows her goals and all of that. So the fact that they have those contrasts makes them a really interesting like dual protagonists for the story. So this book is YA, so it's geared towards a teen audience, and so I think that those perspectives are super valid for teen audiences who are also trying to find their place in the world. They can look to Syl and to Vern and to find characters that really resonate with them because of those internal struggles. So like Vern never doubts her title or her place in the Force, but she's constantly unsure of how other people see her, and I really like that her anxiety about that. She's like, and then on Vern's connection with the Force, she's so in tune with it, and so that leads to just this amazing way that how Justina Ireland writes the Force. And every single Star Wars author that I've read writes the Force a little differently, but I love how Justina Ireland describes Vernestra's connection to it, especially because she has this like really special Force ability. And so there's like to Vern and then to Justina Ireland, the Force feels like super all-consuming, and especially to the other characters that we like, other Jedi and the other characters that deal with the Force, like there's this really like monolith like wave of the Force versus this like command that we see like an author like Claudia Gray write about the Force. And I think that that's really interesting of like how that builds up and how that like dynamic is created and how the Force is like created. I mentioned that Vernestra was also a gay person. Vernestra is a gay person. She's an Arrow Ace legend. Justina Ireland said in an interview with StarWars.com that she intended for Vernestra to be read as Arrow Ace. So you get two gay women, two gay protagonists in this Star Wars. Not to mention the even more gay women that are also in. There's more gay women in this Star Wars. Read and weep, fanboys. So those are my highlights for Out of the Shadows. I cannot recommend it enough. I give it 5 lightsaber whips out of 5. If you're a Star Wars fan or you just want a really fun, action-packed book, pick this one up from either your local bookstore or your library. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one.